Hi, guys. This is Hunter. I'm here with Zach, and this is the Nourishing Emptiness podcast. Today, we're going to be yapping a little bit post US Nats, but before we get to that, Zach, how about you introduce yourself?
Yo, alright. I'm Zach. I am a Flesh and Blood player. Been playing since around Everfest into Uprising timeline. Played a lot of like Dromai, some Warrior. Played Fang at US Nats. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I play with Righteous Gaming. You might have seen me on that channel too. Hunter, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm Hunter. Been playing since about the same time, since right after Uprising came out, I think. And I'm also on Team Righteous Gaming. I'm generally a warrior or an assassin player, but I'll branch out when I need to play major tournaments. And yeah, that's about it for me. First of all, for US Nats, I wanted to ask, so how did the trip go, Zach? Since I'm up in Canada and you're down there and you actually got to go, how'd it go?
Uh, I mean, the trip, like, as far as travel stuff went well for me. I know a lot of people had problems this go around. I didn't really. Just had one flight, no connections. Stuff was easy. Had a lot of fun. I mean, it's in Vegas, so there's like a lot of stuff going on outside of the event itself, which I'm sure we'll get into. It was a lot of fun. But overall, it was successful. I went 10-5 in the event. Had a good time. Good friend of mine, Jacob Lance, he top aided, so spent a lot of time on the last day helping him prep and doing stuff like that. It's just a very fun time.
All right. So you already mentioned you played Fang. I
Yeah.
know I helped you work on the list. How did you feel about it? How did you get there with the list? Is there anything you'd change? Were you happy with the deck selection? Stuff like that.
I think as far as Fang is concerned, he's still pretty well positioned. I think that he was a good choice. He has like favorable matchups into most of the top decks. Like I think he's good into Verdance. I think he's good into Florian, Syndra, like a lot of the high represented decks. I think the Gravy Bones matchup is probably still favored, though we'll talk about how my CC Gravy experience went a little bit later. But yeah, I was happy with the list. I think that like some changes can be made around how like defensive the meta is kind of turning. Like I don't think I was expecting Verdance and Gravy to be quite as good as they were. So I think the list can change, but overall, I was happy with how it went. I was happy with my draft prep, especially more so than my CC prep. Honestly, I think draft went very well.
It's good to hear. You mentioned Fang being favorable into Verdance and Syndra, and I feel like a lot of people listening are going to hear that and they're going to check out because this person doesn't know what they're talking about. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on why you think that?
Sure. So for Syndra, I guess I'll start with this one seems like easier. Valiant Dynamos does a lot of work in that matchup for denying like mask draw if they're on momentum. If they're on links, it gets a little bit different, but a lot of Syndras weren't on links at all at this event. Um, so yeah, you kind of just outvalue them. Like my Syndra CC game, round one, I think the game was over in 10 minutes. It was probably my fastest game all tournament where I just got three fealty online by like turn two because Syndra can't block you. And then I attacked them for 20 after taking 24 or something like that, and they just died. Uh, it just is what it is, right? Like the matchup is very swingy, but as long as the Syndra doesn't get to draw off mask, you just have better numbers. As far as
Yeah,
yeah, no, go ahead.
yeah. So yeah, no, I do agree with you on the Syndra thing. Caveat I want to point out here is I'm pretty sure once Syndra's learned the matchup, it ceases to be favored. But even up here in Canada, playing against very competent Syndra players, they will choose to go second. They'll present Mask of Momentum, and you will roll them. And I think once they learn the matchup better, it won't be uh, quite the way it currently is, where a lot of Syndras sort of just let themselves lose because they just don't know the intricacies of how it works. And I'm thinking it's a little bit of the same for Verdance.
Yeah, I would agree with that largely. I think that like stuff like pouncing links goes a long way for Syndra to like just make her slightly faster in a way that like she'll have more tempo and actually win the race. But without it, I think she's just like slightly too slow. That's also why I think Phi is actually worse for you because they just run links by default generally. Um, but on the topic of verdants, I think generally speaking, verdance struggles to deny you fealty in a way that's like efficient. She wants to be like playing the mid-range game plan, keeping like two cards and like outvaluing, and that's not like a good way to beat Fang. If Verdance lists adapt after this tournament to be able to play wider hands better, I could see her being more of an issue. But with how they were playing into me at this event, I didn't really struggle. Scour isn't that big of a problem as long as you can like either get enough fealty fast enough that they have to commit too much pitch to it. They'll take way too much damage to scour you, and you'll be totally fine. Or they can get it fast enough, but then you still have a lot of ways to get more left in deck, and then you just remake the board, and you're totally fine. So it's kind of like a lose lose. Like it's weird that Scour has felt like a card I'm happy to see Verdance play, which I'm not sure it should be, but it's felt that way.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on that. A lot of the Verdance matchups I play, it does feel slightly favored, but to be fair, I'm not playing into Majin or Lucas Oswald. Um, that point aside, it does feel like Scour is not as big a problem as you'd think it is, so long as you've built the Fang deck to not lose to it. Um, you have to run blues, you have to run pitch cards, and you have to finagle your actual game plan to like save fealty sometimes when you're at 3 fealty, just so that you can get it back after they scour you. You can generally tell if the Verdance is going to scour you based on the way they're blocking in a really, really weird way, or have just left a card in Arsenal for 4 turns. Um, okay, so we talked about that. Uh, were there any interesting matchups that you had?
I there are a few. I think that like the first one that comes to mind. I guess we're going in like chronological order. I had this weird game against an Ira day one. I think it was like round four. I was 3-1 going into it. Um, where I was expecting it to be like mid-rangey value Ira with like some cut throughs and stuff like that, along with obviously like the 2 for 6s and like the value package. And they presented like 21 D reacts into me. They were on full wax on, wax off. They were on Fate Foreseen, That All You Got, I think, Sync, and Shelter. Like, just a ton of D reacts. And they were just trying to straight up fatigue me, and I was not expecting it at all. So I like didn't board properly. Turn zero, I blocked with a Hunsend and Brimstone because my hand didn't function, and I got really punished for it. So they pivoted to full fatigue, or I guess that was their initial game plan. I didn't have all the resources in my deck that I would have liked. And I managed to kill them with the last point of damage in my deck while I had 7 cards left in the deck. My deck after that was 4 D reacts, glint, glint, glint. So I just barely killed them by pitch stacking a turn that was like Savor, Exposed, and 3 Instants. And I like went, I think, 4 wide with Yellow Twist or something like that. It was a very tight game. They told me after the fact they forgot to board in quick dodge flexors, so I kind of got a lucky break there. They definitely would have fatigued me if they had them. Uh, so yeah, I guess watch out for full fatigue Iras when boarding. I don't know if that was
There's
a I don't know if that's a common trend in Ira. I haven't seen Ira in general recently, but they almost got me with it. I was not expecting it.
There is no worse feeling in the world than having to block with Fire and Brimstone.
Yeah, I mean, especially like turn zero, but my hand was like Hunsend, Fire and Brimstone, and like I think it was Pledge, and I forget what the last card was, but
Right.
yeah, it was not really a functional hand, and I wasn't about to like take 6 turns. It was very awkward, but
No, of course.
yeah. So that was tough, but we got there. The round after that, I played against an Acilio who comboed me on, I believe, turn 3 off Tunic using boots. And I had Arcane Compliance for their Mind Warp, so they took me to like 28, ending the turn with a Gone and a Flash. Left, and I was feeling pretty good about it. And then the next turn, they comboed me again without boots to take me from like 28 to 9 and rip my entire hand, which was really tough. They popped arms, and I think arms amped 6 that turn, or something like that. They got to still go like 3 wide with Gone in a Flash by using Current Funnel a couple times, and yeah, it was tough. They played around Arcane Compliance the second time because they had Shock, and you can't compliance a Shock. So it was, yeah, it was well played by them. We talked after the game, and he's like, "Yeah, I've never done a combo line without boots that was that insane before, but that's card game sometimes." I think Acilio, one of my takeaways from the tournament, he is much better than I thought he did. I think the zero cost Shock actually goes a long way. It's very strong.
Yeah, and I mean I generally agree. Acilio feels relevant at the very least. Not a meta beater or anything, but something where if you sit down against it, it's not necessarily just a coin flip.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
So after that, we went into draft. How did your first draft go?
my first draft was, I think, went better than the second. I had a pretty solid Marlin deck. It was kind of halfway between Harpoon, halfway between Manta. So I struggled like choosing which bow to play. I wound up playing Harpoon against everything but Gravy Bones, and I think it was probably correct. Round one, I played against a Scurv, and I managed to get there. I got a little bit of a lucky break on turn zero. I overpowered him for like 9. So I managed to just leak a lot of damage early, and then by the time he had the Rum online and his hero untapped, he just was like a little bit too far in the hole, had to block a bit too much. So we got there. Lost to a Marlin in the second round. Their deck was just very good. They were like full on Harpoon. They had like 6 block cards in their deck. I just couldn't overpower them at all. I think they 3-0'd the pod deservedly. It is very good draft by them. And then my last round was against a Gravy who just bricked. Their deck didn't look bad, but they just drew like all allies into like all red into all blue, and by the time they could get the allies out, it was like not good enough. So yeah, it went fine. I think the draft deck was good, but I didn't think the way the games played that it really showed. I think the games I won, I would have won with a worse deck, and the game I lost, I would have lost with a better one. But the first draft was totally fine. The second draft was weird. I drafted Gravy Bones. I was put into either Gravy or Mech from pick one because the person sitting to my right, passing to me, pack one picked one a common ranger card, which I read. Um, well, he either pack one picked one a common ranger card or a common necromancer card. There was only one common mech card left, so I tried to go into mech. Um, Fairly early. I stayed open for like the first 3 picks, and then got past like perk up red turbine. I was like, okay, it's a mech seat. Um, and then by the time we got to like pick 8, it was abundantly clear there were 3 puffins in the pod that were not me, and I could not be in mech. There were just like no mech cards in the pack unless they were like Yellow Tooth or something bad. So I had to pivot into Gravy at that point, and I just wound up with a generic pile by the end of pack 2. I think I had 1 ally, 6 blues, and a bunch of like 3-for-7s, which was like not a great place to be at the end of pack 2. I like really needed to shore it up in pack 3, but I managed to get like 6 blues, 3 allies to scrounge up a competent Gravy deck at the very least. I wasn't confident in it, but I managed to 2-1 with it. Uh, my Marlin opponent, the first round of that draft's deck was not doing them any favors. I think they just drafted too many arrows and they couldn't really load reliably, so they just had to take a bunch of really awkward off turns. My second game in that draft was against Agroblaze, if people know him from his YouTube channel. We played like a very tight Gravy Mirror. It was a very fun game. I killed him at Fatigue with the last card in my deck while he still had an ally on board, and I don't believe I did. So if that attack didn't get there, if he could block like 1 more point of damage, he would have won. But he couldn't. Very close game. Very well played by him, I think. But we got there, and then the issues with the deck caught up to me in the last round. So I was overall happy with how draft went. Managed to 4-2, but I don't know. I think that like understanding the reads in this set is very important. I think that if you can like, especially when people force at these big events, there are some people who don't have a lot of draft prep and they just play like their pre-releases and they're like, I like this hero, I want to play them in draft, and they force. It is easy to read that in this set, and you can get a lot of value from doing that in this set. So I would recommend for people to stay open. Is my big takeaway from the draft.
Makes sense. Any cards that you're on the lookout for in draft that might make you not be open, or something that tells you to be even more open, or something like that?
I think there are like a few bomb majestics. I mean, obviously there's the Scurv thing. If people don't know that Scurv and his spec are like very close together in the print sheet, so there's a very high chance that if you see the spec, there will be a Scurv at some point. So that can be an indicator to stay open. As far as things that put me on things, I like Perk Up. Perk Up kind of puts me in mech. For Gravy, I think Rigor Mortis is nuts in draft. It's so annoying to clear. Swing for 6 off 2 resources is also just good. Um, and then as far as Marlin is concerned, Marlin I think is the one you want to stay the most open in. From my experience, arrows are your worst cards. Obviously, like Swift Shot and like the Go Again stuff is very good, but outside of those, like I kind of just want to be sending 3 for 7s and then eventually get them low enough that I can just kill with Overpower. So I would say Marlin is like the generic hero, followed by Gravy, followed by Puffin. Puffin probably wants the least generics, but I don't know. 3 for 7s in general are just really good in this set. Like just getting your first gold in any of these heroes goes a long way.
Right on. And then we wrapped up the event with 4 more rounds of CC. You're currently X4 going into the last few rounds, playing for money, not for top 8. How'd that go?
With the exception of the first round of CC, it went pretty well. The first round of CC on day 2, I played against Brody, and he kicked my teeth in on Gravy. It was really bad. I didn't really draw any fealty generation for like 2 or 3 turns, and by then the life totals were like 8 to 30 or something like that. His deck was just really aggressive. He was playing 9 tipples. He was just trying to take my head off, and he succeeded. Like he was just sending like 20 a turn. It was nuts. I think that like as far as Gravy Fang is concerned, Fang is faster if he gets on, but he needs to get on, and sometimes can struggle with that. Like the Fang deck, at the end of the day, it's like missing one good Draconic React. I think that makes it brick a little bit. And when it does, you'll lose to probably anything, and Gravy is something that you will lose to pretty quickly. My round was not very long. I lost in like 15 minutes, and I got to walk around and decompress for a bit, so at least that was nice. But yeah, that one was tough.
And then you beat a Vincent and 2 Florians to close out the day. Vincent, actually, another matchup I feel like people think Fang is bad into. Do you have any thoughts on that matchup?
I think that if the Vincent is blocking properly, it is favored for Vincent. But a lot of people don't know how to block Fang properly, and if you don't, Fang's numbers are still better. Is basically my read. I think my opponent played pretty well. He got a bit unlucky. He was winning for like the majority of the game, and then he drew one hand with no attacks, and I just killed him because of it.
Hmm.
So it was kind of unfortunate for him. The Florian games, there's not like a lot to talk about. I beat
Florian versus Fang.
yeah. I almost lost the first one to Matt W. He played really well. I misplayed early, and I just like accidentally pitched the wrong card, and it like ruined my entire turn. It was like it was really bad. Um, but we still got there. It's just a very favored Fang matchup. You can play a little bit unoptimally and still win, just because your numbers are so good. It's so hard for the Florian to block you, which is what he wants to do most of the time. So yeah, I don't know. I felt pretty good when I saw it was Florian. Florian. I was like, okay, we're probably cashing.
And Cash, you did. Where did you end up finishing in the event?
I wound up 54th, so not really close to top 32 at all, but well into the top 64. We'll take it.
Yeah, I don't think there might have been like 1 or 2 people at X5 who top 32'd, but That's just those are just the people who had a really bad end to
Yeah,
the
for
tournament.
sure. Yeah.
Um, okay, so that's how the event went. You mentioned earlier that our friend made it into top eight, Jacob on Azalea, and I know that you spent quite a lot of time after you finished the event helping him with prep and stuff like that. How did that go?
Yeah, so the first night we focused on verdants, and it was like a friend of mine, well, two friends of mine named Will, actually. It was me, Will, and Jacob sitting in his hotel room playing Azalea versus verdants until like 1 in the morning, I think. Just getting a ton of reps on that matchup. We basically came to the conclusion that if the Verdance doesn't heal like 5 life on turn 0, he'll be fine. But if the Verdance manages to find like a lot of healing on the first turn, it's a bit rough. Uh, Thankfully, he managed to get there. I mean, it's still a very tight game. He almost didn't, but I don't know. I like to think the reps helped. Originally he was gonna play like um the other quiver, like not play Spell Void. He was gonna play like the anti Warmonger's arms instead of Bullseyes. Like we tested a lot of weird stuff. But we basically came to the conclusion that you need to like at least pretend you can stop some damage from the Verdants and at least like make them have to wait. So we did that, and I think it wound up, it literally did, and wind up mattering in the game. Like the spell void saved him there. So it was good. We played till 1 in the morning, and then immediately went and played blackjack till like 3 a.m. Maybe not the best decision, but it was a
Yeah.
fun time. Blackjack went pretty well. Talk about that a little bit later. But no, I mean that's what Jacob was doing literally all weekend with me. Actually, we were just playing blackjack until like 3 a.m. and it seemed to work for him, and it worked all right for me, I guess. So there you go. And next time it's in Vegas, just simply don't sleep. That's how you win.
Yeah, I've tried that before at Nats. I was at 5 against an Oldham in the mirror, and I just blocked one under damage, and he pummeled me. And I looked at my hand, looked at literally untouched equipment for the entire game. I have two pitch stacked Oakenolds coming up. I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll lose. To just hammer for 10,
That's
because
tough.
yeah, try try sleeping and eating. It helps. You don't
All right,
miss that
so
when
results
you
may
sleep and eat.
results may vary on
Yeah,
the play blackjack till 3 a.m. Got it. uh,
yeah,
excuse me. But anyway, so yeah, that was what we did the night before. Get there the following morning. Jacob plays his round, goes great. We just kind of assumed that Gravy would win against the Florian. Like there was the chance he wouldn't, but like we were pretty understanding of what Azalea Florian looks like. We weren't really worried about that. So we started sitting down to practice the Gravy Azalea matchup, and um, it was me, a third friend named Will, actually. Not either of the other two from the previous night. We're playing Gravy against Jacob. When Lucas Oswald actually came over and talked to us for a little bit, he offered to help. He was like, "Hey, if you need people that can play Gravy, my team can help you out," because he knew Jacob didn't have a team. He was very nice. And he's like, "I want somebody who plays really well to win the tournament, and you played very well." And I had to sit there like and not laugh, knowing full well that the day before Jacob was telling me how he was like accidentally playing 63 cards into a lot of people because he just hadn't written a sideboard guide. Uh, so it was a little bit funny hearing Lucas gas him up a bit when I knew that he hadn't thought that deeply about it. Not that Jacob didn't play well, he did, but maybe not quite as not quite as well as Lucas might have thought on the weekend. Uh,
yeah. Jacob's an insane Azalea player,
he
though. I
is.
don't really get it. I don't. Something about him. He's got the sauce that he's just playing the deck and like, yeah, it works. Sure,
Yeah, I
of
don't
course
know.
it does.
Like every
Jacob, of
time
course.
I try and play a list that Jacob makes on Azalea, I just like can't win games. And then I watch him play, and he's just taking the most insane casino lines I've ever seen in my life, and they just work like 90% of the time. Like, you know how like Eugene is Reinar's strongest warrior. You know, I feel like Jacob is Azalea's strongest warrior. Like the guy can't miss. It's crazy.
I feel like some people, I don't know, I guess get Brody on the line. You lost to him. I don't think Brody's gonna take that line down.
Maybe not. Maybe not. But
But he abandoned his girl to go play the best deck in the game, Gravy Bones, and open a tournament 0-2 with all of his teammates. And then he's the only one who managed to make it work into day 2 and also went X5. A lot of people who I was following at the event went X5 alongside you. Mara, who's a pen pal, should we call it, for Fang between you and her.
yeah, we work and argue more often than not about Fang fairly frequently on her Discord. So yeah, I guess that's another place you can catch me. But yeah, I think that like Mara talked a little bit with me about how her event was going, and apparently she just like made a lot of silly mistakes in the first 3 rounds. Like she said, she accidentally just died to face up breaking scales on accident. Uh, so she went 0-3 to start CC, and then rallied, went 6-0 in draft, and like ended X5, which good for her. Like very well done to rally from like that position, because she seemed really out of it day one.
I lost a face-up lightning press at the last battle hardened I played. So, like I don't know. Yeah, I've been there. I get it. Sometimes it's worse too when you look at someone's hand, see they're on 4 instants, and then still die to the lightning press because you're so tired that you're just like, okay, he has 4 instants and he's at 8. He must be
I
dead to my hand, and you don't even bother to memorize what's in it.
Dude, I think my favorite instance of something like this happening to me was I was playing top 8 of the Battle Harden against Michael Fung in Charlotte like 3 years ago. And we were playing Dromai Oldham. I had him like pretty much dead to rights at this point. I had 2 Burn Them All on board. I had a Passing Mirage. I had a Chromai. He didn't have AB because I blew it up with Tomotai, and he was at like 3. So I was just sitting there swinging Chromai with Burn Them All triggers into an Ashwing every turn. And he is keeping his full hand to try and kill me. He plays Rouse, shows me a CNC, and I'm looking at my hand with a Sink Below in it, and I don't sync on the Rouse. And then I just died to the CNC because I forgot CNC text. It's like,
Always.
classic. Love it. Like,
Classic. Look at card that will kill you. Do not play around.
yeah, no, it really well done by me. I think he was talking in the interview after that event too, and he's like, "Yeah, I got a bit lucky in my quarters. My Dromai opponent got like stuck with a Sink Below in hand on a CNC somehow. I don't know how that happened." And I was like, "Thank you for not saying how that happened, but dude, that's how it happened."
Oh no! How did it happen?
How'd it happen? Shouldn't have happened, but yeah, no. Sometimes you just lose to face up information because you're being a bit silly. It is what it is.
So you, Jacob, Lucas Oswald, the rest of his team, Will the Third, you guys prepped for Gravy.
So it wound up being Jacob, Taylor Crawford was playing against him. I forget who else. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. Uh, but yeah, they went and play tested Gravy for a bit. I was actually signed up for Team Sealed that day, so there was a point in time where I had to leave while they were still play testing, and then I came back later. But they got to the point where they're like, okay, we have to kill like Anka Sawbones early. If they come down late, we deal. And we'll just like pretend we have Dreadbore against Anka sometimes. And the matchup is like okay, but the die roll really matters. And Jacob was 8 seed, so he's always playing without the die roll the whole top 8. But I think they got to a point that they were feeling okay about it. And then the game happened, and we were not feeling okay about it anymore.
Yeah, and then you sit down and you're like, wow, that was not good.
Yeah, that was about as bad as it could have possibly went, I think.
That is I don't know. We've been playing a lot of Gravy. I've been playing a lot of Gravy over the last 2 days. I'm 28-3, even into ninjas and azaleas, and it's not looking good for the meta, boys. We'll talk a little bit more about Gravy at the end, I think. So Jacob gets his butt kicked. What do you do? Did you watch the finals at all while you were there?
Not while I was there. I've watched them after.
Okay. And then Jacob gets his gold foil. What was his gold foil?
His gold foil was gold baited hook. So he opens it. He's like, "Oh, that's pretty good," and then he runs over to show the Gravy hook. He's like, "Hey, dude, look, you could have lost and got the hook." I don't think he literally said that, but like, you know, something similar. And then he's like, I can't remember if it was literally the Gravy who offered to buy it off him, or if he was walking away and someone else saw it and offered to buy it off him. But I think he had the card for all of 3 minutes before he sold it.
What do you get? Like 3 grand?
No, not that much. I think he
I
got like around 2,000 or something like that. Um,
it,
but like gold foil market is kind of weird right now. So,
it,
but yeah, I
Hook
mean,
has to be like that's literal one of one right now. So
I don't think so. I think it's actually one of two. I think one other one's been opened.
oh,
Um, but yeah, you're right.
how?
It is like a new.
Wait,
I think
how?
from a calling.
There has the set launched
Yeah, I think it's been in the
this weekend.
packs. Like at the very least, I've seen one before this weekend.
Okay,
Well, whether or not it was
interesting.
opened or if it was just like LSS like showing what was in it, I don't remember. But I think that there's another one out there.
Okay,
But anyway, it might have been the world premiere actually.
maybe
But
that's if they were doing gold foil L's for that, then yeah, that
yeah.
makes sense.
But anyway, so yeah, Jacob loses, gets his gold foil, immediately sells it. Um, and then we kind of split up for a little bit. I forget what all everyone else was doing. Me and some friends went and got some food. But eventually, me, Jacob, Will, and another friend of mine, Devin, wind up at the blackjack table again. And this is where things got really crazy on the weekend. This might be the craziest part of the weekend because Jacob just starts betting $25 on the pair square at Vegas. And if people don't know what the pair square is, when you're playing blackjack, the pair square is if you get dealt a pair, it pays out 12 to 1. So if you put $5 on the pair square, you'd get $60. But it's very unlikely to happen because you got to be dealt the same card, obviously. Um, and so he's betting $25 on the pair square, and he hits it like 6 times. Like, you just can't lose. It was the most insane run of blackjack ever. And while this is happening, we're also just not losing. So I think that I wound up like $700 or something playing blackjack. Meanwhile, Jacob is probably up like a couple grand, just like hitting pairs constantly somehow. And it's just like, I don't know, the craziest weekend of his life for Jacob. Like, the guy could not miss on anything. It was nuts.
And yet he didn't buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I know, right? Should have.
Absolute abject failure. Missed his opportunity to win. Could have finally broken free of this foolish class system. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just win the
true.
lottery while you're in Vegas, while you're
Yeah, for sure.
topping US Nats on. Azalea is not the most luck reliant deck, but it is the most casino deck, I think, in the game.
Yeah, at the very least, New
Not even
Horizons is for
close.
sure, I think, yeah.
Yeah. The way Jacob plays it is just on a hope and a prayer. You just block out to make sure that you can't get messed up too hard if you get the non-attack when you want an attack or vice versa. Then you always hit the attack. It always gets dominated and you always send 18. And then you do it all again. They can't stop you.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, no, great player, insane deck in every sense of the word. So, US Nats has come to an end. Majin Bay, the legend, has won the event on Verdance in what genuinely might have been the sloppiest tournament finals I've ever seen in a major event on all sides, like on the whole.
There was like
No
a
shade at any of the players. They were both clearly exhausted and both not aware, or I shouldn't say not aware. The Gravy self-admittedly said they messed up their whole sideboard and just presents no AB into Verdance. And Majin either planned for just going face or recognized this on the fly and chooses to go face. Turn 2, Majin doesn't realize that he can sink below Conqueror of the High Seas and just lets it hit him and blow up the Sinkin Arsenal. And then the game is over in like 5 turns to straight arcane damage to face. And then eventually it sputters out a little bit at the end while Majin just plays high percentage lines waiting for a guaranteed win. And we have Verdance. No one's pick, surely, unless you picked Verdance to play at the event. I don't think anyone was coming into this event thinking Verdance would be as powerful as it was. Um, I slept on it. I missed it completely. I was right there on the Gravy train. I knew he'd be good. I knew Florian would have a statistically bad weekend. I felt very confident in those sorts of things. But yeah, the overrepresentation and underperformance of Syndra and the insanely high performance of Verdance. What are your thoughts?
um I think the more that I like mull over the Verdance deck, if not for Gravy, I think she'd be very problematic. Because I think like her bad matchups are all like leaving. You know, Azalea's leaving, New's leaving. They're not making it through Nat season, even if they aren't the best thing you can be doing. They're just like too close. Um, and then once they're gone, like what's left? Gravy, I guess, and Fang are like the two that are maybe sus. Even then, like the Fang matchup, I could see winding up
I
being
think
Verdant's
Verdance
favorite too.
can. Yeah, I think Verdance can win that
Yeah, exactly.
matchup.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I think that it's looking like we'd be in for a verdant summer, if not for our boy Gravy coming in and being like, nope, J.K., it's me. I'm the one.
All
uh,
right.
yeah, I don't know.
So this is a good time to touch on that, and we'll go to Syndra as a counterpoint to Gravy. What is going on with Gravy right now, from your perspective? We just saw him in the hands of a single player perform very well. There were a couple other high performers on Gravy, but for the most part, the deck crashed and burned at the event, which I think is to be expected on launch weekend with a new deck that's incredibly complex to play and obtuse to build. But
Yeah,
we've had a few more days. We've had a little bit of public viewing sessions for everyone's ideas on Gravy. And at least in, I think, my experience and your experience, it's starting to look a little bit. Well, it was 1 year ago, roughly to the day, that Zen started doing the stuff that people were like, oh no.
yeah, I'm getting a kind of similar vibe. I don't think it's quite to that extent. I don't think you should expect 60% Gravy presence at Canadian Nats again or whatever the hell Zen was. But I do think that he is like far and away the best thing you can be doing, at least to me. I think that a lot of the issue at US Nats that people were having was like a mix of inexperience with the deck, like you were saying, and the decks are just not optimized yet. Like it's just too short of a turnaround with a deck as complicated as this is. It's not as easy as Zen, where you're just like, all right, we're playing Descendant, we're playing Bonds, or we're playing 30 blues. All right, that's like the entire deck almost. Like this is you have to build the thing from the ground up. You have to figure out what allies you're playing. You have to figure out what your best blues are. You got to solve some like bricking issues, some inconsistency there.
You
Uh,
say that about Zen. I want to cut in for a second here. You say
sure.
that about Zen. It took a month for people to figure Zen out.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
I guess, but like once it was there, it like built itself, you know.
yeah,
Even now, I don't think that's true for Gravy. I don't see Gravy getting like optimized to the tier zero Zen level in like a month. I think it's gonna take longer. Um, but I do think even with unoptimized lists, he's very strong and borderline problematic. Which is where I'm coming from when I think he's the best thing you can be doing. It's just like as soon as the decks get refined enough, I think that like his matchup spread is also just disgusting. He's good into Verdance, he's good into Florian, he's good into New, I think. Some people will argue with me on that, but I think he is fine.
I'm
Uh,
I'm 3-0, and some of those games went very badly for me, and I've still won into new. Uh, Azalea is a little bit of a coin flip because Azalea is a little bit of a coin flip, but you have some ridiculously powerful things you could do into her, like Chum just being an ALS. So my biggest sticking points right now in the meta for Gravy are Prism, which I have not been able to test very much. We played one game and it felt like Prism is impossible to it's impossible for Prism to win based on the game that we played. But Gravy was I think 1 in 13 into Prism on the weekend. Everyone I've heard talk about the matchup says it is literally unplayable for Gravy. I'm planning on doing more testing coming up, see if that's true, or see if this is my hunch is that it's closer to like Bravo versus Dromai, where you start off thinking that it's 100% one way, and then you get to the end and you're like, no, it's just deterministic if you do it right. Um,
That's kind of how I feel also. It feels like if you just play in a very specific way, the Gravy is probably just going to either kill or fatigue the Prism. And I know that like the from the Prism side, that's like their plan is that they're like I'm just gonna throw heralds at all the allies, get all my own hits, and like either fatigue the Gravy or eventually just kill them. ALS loop, obviously, Prism is playing for too, but like you have so many outs to ALS. You have like call for back alley. You have what's like the two action point one. You know, you
yeah,
have
lead the
tons of
charge.
ways. Yeah, you have tons of ways to out that. You have a bunch of like really dinky go again stuff that like Prism doesn't want to be blocking to save angels, so the angels aren't really getting their full ward value a lot of the time. Like I don't know, it just it doesn't feel like a matchup that is good for Prism to me at all anytime I play it. Um so yeah, I'd be interested to play it more and see if I can like, figure out like what the Prisms I'm playing against are doing wrong or what I'm doing wrong as Prism to make it feel this way, but like I don't know, from my perspective it doesn't feel that bad, if bad at all, honestly.
Okay, so moving on to like the other thing that people are going to look at Gravy and say this is bad. Ninjas. Katsu did show up to Nats a little bit. No one did well at all on him. One person managed to stick it out to the end of the event, getting like 109th or something. Uh, but Syndra, second most represented deck, I think, like 42 copies. And it sucked really badly. I think one player X Ford maybe with Syndra and very little else. Horrible conversion rate, horrible win rate. And it just lost into absolutely everything in the meta except for Gravy Bones, Fang, and maybe one other deck that I'm not thinking of right now. How did this happen? What's the best aggro deck?
The best aggro deck in my opinion is just Azalea. I think that like the issue with Syndra is that she loses to like marginal high rolls. At least in my opinion, this is the issue. Like way too consistently. Like you play against Dio and Dio like post waves you at a bad time and now you're completely losing. You're playing against like Fang and Fang gets online like one turn too soon and you're completely losing. And it just feels like it's like slightly too slow. The deck is like slightly too fair. Um, Gravy Bones, even, it feels like can just outvalue you if his disruption lines up even remotely okay. If the Gravy is not playing in a like terrible way with their allies to just give you free value, it feels like very playable for Gravy. It's probably still bad for him, but not like super bad, like probably like 60-40 for Syndra or something. Like you accept that being your bad matchup, right? If that's your only bad matchup and it's a 60-40, you're very happy, I think.
Well, we say only bad matchup. Fang does exist.
Sure, yeah. But like that one's kind of flippy, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I don't. It's so annoying because of the way Talishar testing works. I have a 100-100 on both sides of all of these matchups. So testing Fang into Gravy, unlosable. It's so free. And testing Gravy into, I haven't played against a Fang, to be fair, but into a lot of other decks, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, you just sent boat, and then you sent boat, and then you sent boat, and then you sent loot the hold, and then you sent loot the hold, and then you sent loot the hold, and you're sitting there, and it's like your opponent's at 15, you're at 36 with 2 allies in play, and you're just like, okay, do your worst, Katsu, do your worst, Syndra, whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much been my experience as well. It's like if they get uh the damage rolling like early and you brick a little bit at the start, then it can get sus. But like if you draw normally, it feels like they get in too much of a hole too fast while you're disrupting them to get themselves out of it when your disruption doesn't line up. And if that's what
Yeah,
Gravy is, then he's just the best thing you can be doing by far, which is how I feel about it.
that's what it's looking like a little bit. Um, I'm hoping a little bit to be proven wrong. I'm hoping, in particular, I'm proven wrong after I play Nats, assuming I play Gravy. Um, I'd like to play Gravy. The only question is whether or not I can get all the cards for it, in particular, whether or not I can get the Fables. I don't know if we have access to an Eye of Ophidia. Maybe an Eye of Ophidia. We definitely don't have access to Riches, which is also a shame because the other 2 decks I would play, Kasai and Fang, I'd like to play Kasai, but that also needs Riches and Eye of Ophidia. Very, very necessary to have both in that deck right now. Fang doesn't need any of them, but at risk of sounding cocky, I'm fairly certain that I can skill gap the first 3 rounds of Canadian Nats, and it's very hard to skill gap when playing Fang, because the deck will just 20% of the time choose to lose, and it's very hard to top 8 Nats if you lose one of the first 3 rounds, unless you're XOing draft.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll end up seeing what happens there. Do you have any other takeaways from the event?
Um, I don't know. I think that like the biggest ones are obviously like Gravy and Verdance both look like kind of problematic. Syndra and Florian, I think, are like on the downturn, though I don't think Florian's actually like that bad. It's just the decks that are good hose him. So he's kind of like a Swiss fiend where he's just gonna like beat the general meta and then lose to the good things. Um,
Yeah, like the I wonder, losing Germinate actually affected the Verdance matchup, didn't it?
yes, for
Right?
sure. Yeah.
Like
I
that's what
what
makes it
I
playable.
would like to see LSS do, personally at the end of Nat season, because they said they want to do more frequent bans and address things faster. And this is just with U.S. Nats, obviously. Like the meta can still develop, and maybe the things will change. But I would like to see them bring Germinate back and cut like blue fruits of the forest or something. So do like a little bit of a ding to Verdance, a little bit of a ding to Florian. Make them play worse Earth cards. But I think the Germinate ban is like
They're
way
never
too
doing
harsh.
that.
I know they
They're
aren't. I
never.
know they aren't. But like even with
Also, it is not too harsh based on the actual.
I think it's too harsh. Like I think
It's
that there are so many ways they could have addressed Florian that wasn't as harsh as this. Like I think Arcane Seeds is honestly like a more fair hit. I think like Fruits is a more fair hit. I think that they should hit the consistency Earth cards and make it so he has to play like more garbage in the deck for the payoffs to function. That is my opinion.
That's
Um,
exactly what they did. They hit
that's not what they did.
Germinate. They hit
No,
Germinate.
that's
It's a
not what they did.
consistency
No,
card.
no, it's not. Germinate is a win condition into slow decks that he just doesn't have anymore.
Oh,
Like
tragic.
it's
Florian has to play win conditions instead of having his blue base accidentally do it. Oh
I know,
no.
right? It's so sad.
What a tragedy.
How could
It
this
it like
happen?
I think it is like people drew a lot of parallels between Germinate and Frost Hex and Icelander, and it is the same thing, but the difference is you can't ban Frost Hex from Icelander because she was fundamentally designed around the idea that this is her plan to not be fatigued. She's a wizard. I think you can ban it from Florian because Earth has the most unfatigable card set in the game, plus he has the best weapon in the game as far as like one card hands are concerned. I think it is okay that Florian might have to play a little bit more proactively rather than playing 18D reacts and just saying, oh, I can run 18D reacts into combo decks because I have Germinate.
So yeah, I don't think that Florian can get away with the 18D React package without like CYB and stuff. Personally, like, and
He
maybe he
did play
can.
CYB.
I Some did, some didn't. And obviously, like, I do think the OTK was problematic, but Scepter's also gone. So like, I think that it's like you've splash damaged regular Florian too much, in my opinion. I think that like as the meta progresses, he's gonna wind up being like one of those decks that people think about right now that is like good, if not for the best thing, completely hosing it. Like it's the same thing that happened with Dromai, right? Where like there were a bunch of decks that were like totally fine except for the fact that they had a glaring Dromai issue. Same thing was kind of true with Enigma. I think Florian is in that spot right now where Gravy Bones and Verdance are both just like decks that hose him, and you want to play this good deck, but you just can't because like the top of the meta just hoses it. Which maybe means they shouldn't bring anything back from him, and they should just hit stuff from like Verdance and Gravy because they both seem really out of line to me.
I don't think Verdant
But
seems out of line at all.
I think she seems a bit out of line.
I don't think anyone has had any opportunity to react to her at all.
I don't know what you do to react to this. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, all right, but
Like
all right.
poison the well
You
and
were
stuff doesn't do
beating it
anything
on
to this.
Fang.
Sure, yes.
I'm pretty sure Syndra beats it if she runs Rake the Embers, Spreading Flames, or Rake over the Coals, Spreading Flames. Like I'm pretty sure combo Syndra wins. Uh, Florian can't beat it, obviously, because it's a slow deck into a better slow deck. Gravy is, at least in our testing, it's 10-0 into Verdance. Doing so long as you present any amount of Arcane Barrier, it seems good. I don't know. I think it's a wizard. It's got some really good matchups, some really bad matchups. I have no idea how the Prism matchup goes, I'll be honest, but I can't imagine it's horrible for the Prism.
Prism is like in such a weird spot right now. I really don't know how to feel about her because like I keep hearing that she has like all these good matchups, but every time I think about them, I'm just like I don't feel like they're actually good. I don't know. And maybe I'm just like misinformed. Maybe I don't know enough good Prisms, but I feel like she is probably sliding a bit.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far. Prism's like,
Well, I don't think she's actually gonna like go down in play rate because people who play Prism just play Prism, or at least a lot of them do. But I wouldn't be surprised if like her conversion and her win rates go down a little bit. I think the meta is moving in a way that's not great for her.
uh, we'll have to see. I mean, if Prism actually is 100% into Gravy, then
Well, yeah, then she's fine. But I just
you know,
I
100%
really I
into
don't
Gravy
believe
favors
that.
into everything
I'll
else.
believe it when I see it. You know.
Um, yeah, a dark day for Florian. Syndra's still whatever. Going forward, we expect to see more Verdants, a lot more Gravy, and I think I'm hoping that the point the metagame is at Canadian Nats is not yet aware of how good Gravy can be. I think the good players, like the high elo, the world beaters in Canada, I think they know how good Gravy is already. But I'm pretty sure the general public will not be there yet, for a couple reasons. One, a lot of people just bring the decks they want to play. This is even more true at Canadian Nats than it is at US Nats, in my experience. You meet a lot of people who are just here pretty much to have fun. They're playing their pet deck. And some of them do really well. There's like they're good players, but they're not approaching it from the perspective of they have infinite card pool and can play whatever they want. So you have to prepare for a much more open meta than you'd think, at least until you're at the top tables. And then once you're at the top tables, which, mind you, is only day 2 because of how non-US NAT events are structured. 3 rounds of CC, then 6 rounds of draft, then cut to day 2, 3 CC and top 8. With an event structure like that, only your last 3 rounds are against good players if you're in position to top 8, as far as CC is concerned, statistically at least. So long as you 3-0 CC X2 draft, you generally have a game to lose to the good players in the final 3 rounds, and you can top 8. That's my goal. That's always my goal at Canadian Nats. Of the 2 times I've played, I messed that plan up because of that pummel interaction thing that I just didn't sleep or eat at that event. And then it worked out fine on Zen last year. Not much of I don't know if you get much credit for top 8ing a nationals on Zen, but to be fair,
Only 8 Zens can do it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was last year was I think 60% Zen day 2, and top 8 was 6 Zens, a new and a victor, and it was a Zen finals, despite literally the 2 decks that weren't Zen in top 8 were brought specifically to hard counter Zen and had play draw choice, and both lost.
Yeah, and again, I don't think like Gravy is quite at that level.
It's not at
But
that level.
but
It's not.
you know,
You could bring Syndra with Warmongers and you would win.
probably yeah.
Like
Well,
I have
Warmongers does go a long way into Gravy for sure, especially if you can go
if you're
wide before it. Yeah, if you're going wide before it, if you're just kind of like throwing it out there, you
it
can
doesn't do
play that.
anything
Yes.
if you're playing slow. But
Yeah, yeah.
if you're playing Syndra and you're killing all the allies smack in face, and you play Warmongers, it will probably win you the game. Probably. Don't quote me on that. If they double chum you right back, then good luck. But okay. That's a lot of yapping about US Nats. We'll talk more about Canadian Nats next week, I think, when I have a better idea of whether or not I'm ever going to find any fables. And if I've found that Gravy does in fact lose to Prism and maybe some other random stuff like Fang. Maybe Kasai. Warriors generally also have a good matchup, but
Well,
not
2 of
good
them.
enough. Dawnblade's also good.
Oh sure, yeah, yeah.
I beat a Dawnblade today, but it's good.
Yeah, yeah. Dawnblade. Yeah, 3 of them. I was thinking of the other
Of the
2.
3 losses I've taken, one of them was to Bolton.
Really interesting.
Yeah. I've
Was
lost
it
to
like
a
Raiden
Dio,
or
I've
was it
lost to an
Sabers?
Azalea, and I lost to Raiden, yeah.
Nice.
He also gets all of his on hits on allies, so
Again, whenever I think of like the funny warrior who can't beat anybody, that's not the one I'm thinking of either, though.
Yeah, well, Olympia's not a hero, so
Yeah, no, yeah,
but
I don't think re-equipping the armor is gonna go that far in the Gravy Bones
but
matchup.
but you know what? LSS was always right. Gold is the payoff.
True, we got there, we found it, the
We got there.
payoff,
We
it's
just
here.
need to be able to make 3 gold a turn consistently and then draw our entire deck over the course of 8 turns.
True. Okay, when are we getting the?
And then have CNC with go again for 8
All
and
right,
allies.
so what you're telling me is that all Olympia needs is a straw hat that tells him he is a pirate,
Yes, you
and then
unironically might get him there.
yeah. All right, LSS, get on it. Olympia spec straw hat. That's what we need.
Yeah. Olympia, I think they will print a pirate Olympia at some point. They must. Like, I don't know. Like, it's too much. Okay, completely off track. I was trying to close this out here. Any remaining thoughts on any of this?
I mean, we don't have to go super deep into it, but the only thing that we haven't talked about yet that I did want to briefly mention is I think Acilio is like low key good. I think that he's like pretty solid with the new card. I think he's like an A tier deck, and I think people are sleeping on him. Uh, I think that he is a wizard that like does the Kano thing, and it's harder to play around than Kano. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like an uptick in Acilio results personally.
I think that's wonderful until you play him and then you just don't draw Sigil or you don't draw Gone in a Flash.
I mean, yeah, he still has issues and can brick, but I think that like the deck is more consistent than people give it credit for. I've seen like a decent amount of Cilio over the weekend, and it was performing really well. So
Yeah.
you know, that's what I would say. You know, be on the lookout for. We don't need to talk about it for a super long time. Just
Yeah.
I call it if it happens. That's all I'm saying.
We also didn't touch on Arachne at all. Arachne is bad into Gravy and bad into Verdance, so
Oof.
rip Disruption, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, if you're playing an assassin, you're probably playing new at least for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Uh, I don't even know if I should hope that new LLs.
I mean,
I don't think so.
she might LL before Canadian Nats if she wins the event this
Yeah.
weekend.
Her or Azalea could LL.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but if they do, we'll have something to talk about before Canadian Nats.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Basilio, better than people are giving him credit for. Gravy Bones is giving me missed flashbacks. Verdance is a pleasant surprise, for me at least. You don't seem to like it.
I think the deck is super fun. I like that it's good. I just think it's maybe a little bit too good. Is all I'm saying.
I think Majin and Lucas Oswald are a little too good.
I mean, even like when I'm playing it, I feel like really good. Outside of like games into Gravy Bones, those feel like terrible.
Outside of all of the
But
games that you played into
into you on Gravy, yeah, those felt bad. But like games into any other hero have felt like very good and like very easy.
Yeah, I mean, we might be entering another sort of like more restrained meta. We'll
I'm
see.
happy about that though. I feel like we've been out of that for a while.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of here we are getting sidetracked again, but like I feel like a lot of people going to US Nats were complaining about the meta being too open. Which fair enough. I get it. As prepping for tournaments, it's a real pain to just be like, yeah, it's gem roulette for the first couple rounds. I hope I don't hit the matchup that I'm terrible into. But was it ever open to begin with? Or were they just bad at reading the meta?
Well, I mean,
Uh,
at
uh,
the end of the day, like it might be
One
that
person in this call brought a deck that beats Verdance and Gravy Bones.
true, but at the end of the day, whether or not like the meta was actually all that open, isn't really a matter of like what the best deck was and how good it is into everything else. It's more so a matter of what are people gonna bring, and people brought everything to US Nats. So
Yeah,
like
no.
the meta was
But
definitely
Gravy
open.
beat everything.
But yes, that's the thing. Like yeah, Gravy did beat basically everything.
And Verdant beat everything,
Yeah.
even Gravy apparently, because that Gravy Jacob Shaker got fatigued by Lucas at the end of Swiss back when they had nothing to play for, and then lost obviously in very interesting fashion in the finals. So
Yeah, I mean, like if you read the doc that he had on Blue Sky, I guess like give him a little bit of a like credit. Like he thought he was the aggro. He's like, all right, I just have to like beat face and hope I get there. And I don't like disagree with how you should play, but I do think like playing that way and playing AB3 generally is fine, or even AB2 and bring hook like seems fine.
yeah, you can definitely afford to give up. I don't think he had Arcane Hat, which is a big problem because that's the easiest AV I think to bring, but it's interesting at the very least. Okay, now the third time for real. We're done now. Do we have anything else to say?
Nah, bye. Get out of here.
Okay, see ya.